You're listening to The Black Woman in the Corner Office, the podcast for women who lead, influence, and carry a whole lot more than what shows up in their title. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and each week we talk leadership, power, community, and what it really takes to rise without losing yourself. If this conversation resonates, go ahead and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Hi, I'm Dr. Ebony Stone, and this is The Black Woman in the Corner Office. Hello, and welcome to The Black Woman in the Corner Office. I'm your host, Dr. Ebony Stone, and you know what I'm going to say. Today, I have a phenomenal woman with me, and I do. Every single time I do one of these episodes, I meet another amazing woman, and so today, we are joined by one of those women, Miss Caressa Bell, and I can't wait to get into the conversation with her. Listen, I'm going to tell y'all just a little secret. So we were supposed to start this recording about 30 minutes ago, but we just been chatting it up, right? So that just tells you what you are in for. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce her, and then we're going to get right into this conversation, okay? All right, so Caressa is a proven executive who has led some of the largest enterprise transformation initiatives in healthcare. Most recently, she served as the executive business leader at Kaiser Permanente and reshaped hospital and medical group operations across California. She's led the largest Epic healthcare system consolidations in the country. She's overseen the migration of 38 million patient records and 100 million registries, delivered enterprise-wide performance improvements and faster system responses. She has successfully completed a massive healthcare technology cutover ahead of schedule, by the way, led the rollout of national membership and billing platforms, and on and on and on. Across her career, she's built a reputation for turning complexity into clarity and ensuring that transformation delivers both technology modernization and operational return on investment. Today, though, Salt and Light Strategy Group, which is her strategy group, she channels experiences into equipping executives and organizations to move from scattered and reactive. I'm going to say that again, scattered and reactive, because baby, sometimes it is scattered and reactive, to aligned, standardized, and purposeful. And we're going to figure out today how she does all of that. Welcome, Caressa. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Dr. Ebony. It's great to be here. It's great to be with your listeners today. You have been so gracious today, and I really can't wait to get into the conversation.
Me too. So listen, y'all, I'm going to tell you, we're going to try not to veer off, but we have learned that we have a ton of similarities, especially in our children, right? These creative souls that we are raising or that God has loaned to us for a little while. Yes. So we're going to try not to veer off, but sometimes we do. And if we do, y'all just hang in there with us. So Caressa, let's do this. How about we start wherever you want to start? Tell us, who is Caressa Bell? What is the journey that got us to the woman that you are today? Where did it start and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate that question because it does allow me to give a little bit more context into who I am. That list of accolades you shared had me a little intimidated. So we're going to talk about where this started. But I'll be honest with you. I come from humble beginnings, like many of us do. Single parent household, oldest sibling, oldest person in the family. So I had a lot of responsibility from the start. Mom had multiple jobs. We were in a neighborhood of working class individuals. And I love my community. I
Mhm.
love the community that I come from. I hail from the suburbs of Chicago, a really small city right outside of Great Lakes Naval Base. And I love everything about my community. Growing up, I loved everything about my community. But the thing of it is that growing up, I also felt like I wanted to see the world. Like I
Yes.
knew that at such a young age, I knew I wanted to be something great, and I didn't know what that looked like. I just had this fire in the pit of my belly.
Mhm.
And so, just kind of starting there and starting with ambition, I and being the responsible person just because of default, right? That was my role. It really started there. And coming out of the high school, I went straight into the army because I felt like that was the best option for me. It allowed me to, leave home and be able to have security of finances. So, right,
Yeah.
college, honestly, I wasn't sure what college would look like for me coming from my environment. I didn't really have the support system or setup or know how to even, thrive in a college setting. And so I said, I'm going to go where the money resides.
Yes.
And so
Get that bag.
get that back.
Right.
And the Army became my first college, right? 10 years in the Army. And really, it built me at the beginning of my career. And
Mm.
I knew that it wasn't a lot for me to go home to. Not that my community wouldn't receive me, but just because of where we come from, it was very humble beginnings. And so I had to apply myself in the Army. I was in the Army for 10 years. I did a lot of really, really great stuff there to grow. It was the best leadership journey I could have ever been in. The best
I hear
college,
that.
the best college. I met the best people. I had the best experiences. I had to learn how to survive on my own. So much so that, as a single parent in my 20s, I was deployed to Operation Desert Storm with a
Mm.
4-month-old infant, and I
Oh,
was a single mom. And I had a week. I had 1 week to figure out where I was going to place him or how to place him, get him situated, pack up the house, and get on a plane to go serve my country. And it just started this, again, that next level of thinking for me where I had to learn how to do hard stuff without a blueprint, without a roadmap, and still
mm.
continue to show up. I didn't realize at the time what I was doing, but what I was doing was manufacturing my own fearlessness to do things that I didn't even see for myself, but still to show up, right? I could not, it didn't mean that I wasn't afraid. It just meant that I needed to do it, afraid or not.
Yes.
Right. And so that was a beautiful experience because it taught me that there were not any limitations for me. Right. I made it through that experience. My son was in a great space. He was taken care of. I came home. And then I just continued to build off of the momentum of, I want more for myself. I need to grow. I see myself being this person that I didn't even know what that was. And I just kept putting one foot in front of the other. And then did that for 10 years, came out of the military, and I've spent the past 2 decades in corporate America just
Mhm.
really, really applying those same kind of leadership skills that I learned in the military, the desire to want to do more and be better, that whole fire in the pit of my stomach that said, you are going to be somebody, right? Go out and figure out what that
Go do
somebody.
it. Before we continue, if you've ever felt the pressure to perform, produce, and prove while carrying everything else, I wrote The Power of the Pause for you. It's a practical guide to leading with clarity instead of burnout, and it's available now, along with corner office apparel designed for women who mean business. Check the show notes for your link so you can get your copy or you can get your t-shirt. Oh, and if your organization is looking for a host, facilitator, or speaker who understands leadership and lived experience, you can book me directly at drebonystone.com. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
right? And I'll tell you, Dr. Ebony, every single step was a step that I had to operate with fearlessness. There
Mm.
wasn't a blueprint. There still isn't a blueprint. I just know that I want greatness and excellence for myself. And that's what fuels me to continue to do what I do. And so it led me to doing some really, really big things in healthcare, some really big things in corporate America, and leading individuals, of thousands of individuals with a budget of up to $1 billion or more. And so once I look back and I realized the journey that I had come on, this girl without a blueprint, this girl that didn't go straight to college, this girl who went straight into the military and packed her baby up with a week's notice, deployed to Saudi Arabia, served her country, came back home, learned the ropes, went to school, did it on her own. It really, really that's who I am. That's me. I'm gonna show up for whatever is in front of me.
I love it. I love it. Listen, I got to get into a couple things, but let me just say this because this just came to me. When you were saying this girl, I don't know if you have a signature talk called this girl, but I feel like you need to create one, right?
Okay.
And that you need to look. I just think that'll play really well with some of our young women that need to hear it. So while you were talking, that came to me. I'm gonna put that out there. But one of the things that you said was two things that you manufactured your own fearlessness. That is that's powerful. That I don't think we think about it. And then you followed it up with, and if the fear was there, you just had to push through it anyway. Just putting one foot in front of the other. When you think about that, how has that? I know you said it showed up in corporate America, but how can others use that? How can they use that phrase of manufacturing their own fearlessness? How do they do that so that they continue to push forward?
That's a great question. And again, I want to also lead by saying at 20, I didn't know what it was. At 52, I can tell you what it has been this entire time. It's been manufacturing and fearlessness. But where it started, Dr. Ebony, was that fire in the pit of my stomach as a little girl when I said, you are destined for greatness. I wanted more. And it started there. So, how for me it resonates is that every time I have the fear, I go back to, but you said you wanted to be great, but
Mhm.
you said you wanted to be this. And where I talk about leadership a lot, but leadership also requires you to lead yourself first, right?
Absolutely.
In order for me to manufacture fearlessness, I have to first lead myself to my greatness and understand what I am capable of so that I can continue to show up to that thing on a regular basis. And so
Yes.
manufacture fearlessness happens for me because I have a blueprint of who I said I was going to be. I'm the girl that's going to go out there and make stuff happen. I knew that at a young age, and I just show up to it all the time.
Yes. Yes. The other thing that you said that I think is important in today's world, and I'm going to tell you why. You said you didn't have a blueprint. You just made it happen, right? And I think it's so important in today's world. And here's why. Because the blueprint, I'm putting air quotes, that we were told, because I'm 52 as well, right? That we were told to follow. You go to school, you get the good grades, and then when you graduate, you go to college, you go to the service, you do something to further your education, and then you enter the world, and then you get a good job, and you stay in that job until you retire, and then you retire and you live a good life, right? That blueprint don't work. First of all, most companies don't have pensions. Second of all, most people don't stay in jobs 20 and 30 years. Third, as we move into this next wave of AI and all of the things, I don't even know what college degrees are going to look like. We don't know what jobs are going to look like, right? In the next 10 years, things are going to be so different that I don't have a blueprint to give my children. Um, Nobody does, right? I don't know what it's going to look like. And so I think that's so important, but it's scary, right? You want to know, what do I do next? So I know that there are people that listen to this podcast who are, I don't say not as mature as us, right? They haven't had the life experience as us, and they're just starting out, right? A lot of our listeners are right where we are, but a lot are just starting out. What would you tell them when they're like, I need a blueprint. I need to know how to raise this 2 year old. I need to know where my job is going to be in 10 years, but we can't tell them. What would you say to them?
Great question. I think agree. Look, can I just acknowledge your point of view, which is that blueprint that we thought was the blueprint: go to
Mm-hmm.
school, do good, go to
Mm-hmm.
college, get married, get a job, create a house, all those things, pension. That storyline hasn't worked for years. It's old, it's retired. It is not how society works today. And that blueprint or that narrative, I think some of us are still subscribing to it, or even passing it down to our children as the truth.
Yeah.
Um, in today, what that looks like, and what I tell people today is, you have to first know yourself. Lead yourself first means I know myself. I have a North Star. I know what I'm capable of. I know what resonates with me, right? And I am going to subscribe to that on a regular basis. So when I get lost in the sauce of this roadmap that I'm leading, which doesn't have a plan, if can look back to say, who did I say I was going to be first? How am
Mm-hmm.
I making myself first? Am I showing up to that version of myself on a regular basis? That to me is your best blueprint you could ever have. Sit
Mm.
with, right?
Yeah.
Because even before I knew that I was going to be even before I knew that I was an executive or a sergeant or in the army, or somebody that would go on to do big things, I knew that I was somebody that wanted more, subscribed to more, and I knew I wanted to be out in front. Why? I don't know. But right. And there were times when I tried to be like, oh, I don't want that gift. I want to let somebody else have the gift. Let me just be quiet. But when I realized that that wasn't what was in my spirit and my soul, I
Mm-hmm.
had to really continue to go back to what my North Star was. That became my blueprint, and I built around it, right?
Yes.
And so I like to just tell people, start with yourself.
Mm.
Start eating yourself. And then once you start there, and you're authentic in who you are, and you can lead yourself, then you can create a blueprint that will allow you to go forward and then do other things with other people.
Yes, yes. Listen, my listeners know I am a woman of faith. I'm a Christian. I'm the daughter of two Baptist preachers, right? That is just in me. And so when I hear you talking, I'm reminded of, um, you know, that God knew who you were before He even formed you in your mother's womb. And yesterday, um, as of this recording yesterday, my son graduated, and one of the speakers, I think it was the president of the school, spoke, and he talked about knowing who you, or that God knew you before He formed you in the womb, right? And so you talk about this fire, right? And trying to, I don't want to say, just trying to say, no, 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 I don't want that. I don't want that gifting, right? I think a lot of us do that, but you can't run from it, right? Before we got on this call, and we won't get into them, but we talked about our children, right, being musicians, and how they clearly both are gifted because they've taught themselves different instruments, and they're writing, and they're doing all of the things that neither one of us do. So we didn't teach them, right? Um, so I I want you to talk a little bit about that gifting that people have, and give people some advice when they feel the need to move away from it. And then after that, I want to get into salt and light. I want to understand how it came to be and all of that. I got so many questions.
Okay.
So when people feel that gifting. That's what I want to call it. That fire, just that pull. Well, first of all, why do you think we say no, no, no? I don't want it. That's number one. And then two, once we finally realize it and accept it, how would you tell people to run toward it? What should they do?
Great questions. I love where that's going. Um, the thing that came to mind for me when you asked your first question is, um, people that want to put it out. Because I remember several times I was just like, God, I know you gave me this, but can I give it back? And the thing that keeps coming to mind is heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Mm, mm, mm. Yeah.
What I know about gifts is once they have been placed in you, you can go get the biggest fire hose to try to burn it out. It's there, baby. That fire is there. Whether you activate it or not, especially if it's purpose driven and if you're operating in a purpose space, it's going to continue to nag at you until you do something with it. Right. And that's the best way that I can articulate.
Yes.
Right. I have learned about myself that I am a natural born leader,
Yep.
right? And it comes with a price. It comes with a responsibility. And no matter how many times I may want to sit in the back of the room and say, today I'm not going to lead, today I'm going to sit back and let somebody else take point. I find myself being drawn to certain things just because of who God told me I was. And so, just going back to that, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You can wear yourself out trying to pretend your gifts aren't there, or you can lean into it and thrive like nobody's business. And I have the best success for myself when I lean into my gifts.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
that would be how I would answer. I'm not sure if I answered. What was your second question? I'm sorry, I got really excited about that.
No, that's fine. Just what advice do you have for people to just run toward their gifts? And I think you hit on that, but is there anything you want to add? Like
I think
instead of running from it, running into it.
embrace it. Somebody told me that one time. It's like you are not to get to the other side. You have to go through it. You have to go through, right? And so
Mhm.
my advice to people would be, again, in terms of leading yourself first, get really clear on what your gifts are. Get really, really clear, and whether that is however you get to that point, whether you're meditating, you're manifesting, prayer with God, whatever that looks like for you, get clear on what those gifts are, right? And then show up to them, cultivate them. If you know your gift is something, you're a connector of people, right? You just happen to be able to connect this person to that person and make things happen. Lean into that
Mhm.
as much as you possibly can on small scales and then see where it takes you. If your gift is being a musician, writing music, like we talked about, lean into it with your whole self.
Yes.
Even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't feel like you have all the answers, just take
Mm.
one step towards your gift every day,
Yeah.
one small step. And that's how you get there. Before you know it, you've created your own roadmap. You have your own
Yes.
print.
Yeah.
You're your own case study.
Yes, and the reality is we're all unique individuals. So your journey is never going to look like anyone else's, right?
No, no.
You talked about being a connector of people, and I hope she listens to this episode. And if she doesn't, I'm gonna tell her to. So you guys, just a little tidbit. I had a whole allergic reaction, so I don't have on any makeup today. But I work with an amazing makeup artist. Her name is Talia Ashford, and I have said to her so many times, "Your hands are very gifted, but I don't think that's your biggest gift. I think your gift is in connecting people." And anybody that's ever worked with her, you don't leave her chair the same way you went in. If you start talking to her, she starts talking about, "Hey, I know this person, I know that person," and she's connecting people. And I think we don't stop enough to talk about what our gifts are. Um, and I think that is so important that you figure out what your gifts are. Let me ask you this: do you think that we know what our gifts are, or not that we know, but that our gifts show up very early in life and sometimes we ignore them? Or do you think sometimes we have to uncover them? Or is it a combination of both?
Can I be honest?
Mhm.
This is the Black Women in the Corner Office podcast. I
Yes.
think as Black women, we don't often feel like we can truly embrace and openly speak out about our gifts without someone feeling like we are bragging or doing too much or talking about me so much. So I
Yes.
think a lot of Black women have a hard time really leaning into their gifts because society doesn't believe we should be bragging about anything.
Mm.
We haven't been taught to embrace it's okay to say what you're great at without
Yes.
diminishing somebody else's greatness because
Yes.
my light is mine. And I just feel like it starts there. I feel like
Mm.
it starts there.
Yeah.
I doing the things that I've done in business has put me in the room of a lot of diverse individuals, very different nationalities, a lot of men.
Mhm.
And what I realize is that they don't have a problem with speaking about what they're good at.
No.
Why do we? Why?
We've been trained. We've been, been trained that way. Yeah.
And a lot of times you don't even see the gift that's right there in front of you because you're subscribing to the narrative of that blueprint. Go to school, get a job, get married, retire. But hey, that's not your pathway.
Right.
Your gifts calls you to go in a different lane. But if you can't even stop and process and understand your gift and outwardly own it, you're stalled. You're
Yes.
stalled.
Absolutely. Oh goodness, I wish I could remember who she interviewed with, but and you may have seen this. Tracy Ellis Ross did an interview where she talked about how people constantly ask her, like, when is she getting married? When is she having children? As if that is what defines her as a woman. And she's like, I'm perfectly fine, single, right?
Right.
And not having any children. If I make that decision for myself, I make that decision for myself. Completely, just amazingly gifted woman doing all of these things, and the world is saying to her, where's your husband? Where are your children? Where are these external things that need to define you and define success for you? Like, we don't have to be defined by external things. And because we chose to get married or to have children, that doesn't make us, it doesn't do anything in the scales, right?
Right.
Of life. It is my path. That doesn't mean it has to be your path, right?
Absolutely.
And one of the things that you said is really true for me. I have always struggled with in the workplace what they call self promotion, right? I really struggle with that. I feel like I'm bragging, or like sometimes people are like, "You've done what? You did what? What? Why aren't you telling people?" And I'm just like, I don't know. It's like, no, you need to be able to brag about what God has done through you, right? And I think looking at it that way maybe will help us, right? It's what God has done through you that is helpful.
And can
So,
I say one other way? Can I
yeah,
give a different? I love what you just said. I think it's not even about bragging. It's celebrating your greatness.
yes,
Every single person has a greatness inside. So if the word bragging doesn't feel like it gives enough humility, right? Because some of us have that little stigma about us. Celebrate your greatness,
yes,
right?
yes,
That's all I'm doing is celebrating my greatness. And I just did a great thing. Whether the fact that it happened to be in the workplace
yes.
is just, but I do great things outside of the workplace. Let me share that as well.
Right, right, right. And I love that you said we all have greatness in us. And it all looks different. It all looks different. I remember um, both of my grandmothers, but I grew up with my father's grandmother, living less than a mile away from her.
Mm.
And this woman had the most beautiful yard. Like the her grass seemed greener than everybody else's. Her flowers were brighter and they were just larger and prettier. And she had flowers all through her house. And there was a woman that lived across the street from her that would fuss at the kid, bunch of kids on the block, and she would fuss at them, get off my grass, stay off my grass. My grandmother didn't care. You could run all over her grass, it was whatever. But that woman, when it came to plants, was so incredibly gifted.
Mhm.
And I don't think my grandmother knew the science behind what she was doing because my grandmother never graduated high school, right? She didn't know. She just had a gift, right? And I later found out my grandmother would talk to her plants. I remember so well. She would talk to her plants. And I was always just thought the old lady was talking to her plants. Like, let the old lady talk to her plants. Fast forward years, maybe it was probably just 5 years ago. I had a couple plants. Yeah, 6 years ago, I had a couple plants that flanked either side of my desk during the pandemic. And so my camera was here, and then I had these shelves, and I had two, I think they're called snake plants on either shelf, and they were just growing like crazy. And my boss said to me, "You talk to them all day," and I said, "I don't talk to those plants." She said, "They think you're talking to them." And I said, what are you talking about? And she said, "You're in the room and they think you're talking to them." I said, "My grandmother used to talk to her plants. What does that mean?" And she said, "No, really, there's science behind it. So the more you talk, you're releasing is it carbon dioxide into the air, and they're taking it in and they're releasing the oxygen, and that exchange is happening more and more because you're talking and you're in the room with them." And so she explained the whole science to me. And I was like, wow, there is science behind that. But what I saw in my grandmother was just someone who was very gifted with plants. And it didn't matter what kind of plant it was, grass or a vegetable or whatever. Um, and I think that we need to push into those gifts because they're very different. Maybe you're great with plants. Maybe I'm great with organizing. Maybe you can, like I told you earlier, I can draw a strict stick figure, but maybe you're a gifted artist. Um, and we need to celebrate that greatness, whatever it is, because it looks very different.
I love,
Um,
if I may just, I'm sorry,
yeah.
that's such a touching story. I think what stood out for me is you talked about your grandmother and you shared, she didn't graduate, but she had this greatness that was associated with plants,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm,
That was her gift. And
yes.
here you are, this um, very accomplished, educated woman, Dr. Ebony Stone, right?
Mm-hmm,
And that is not your greatness. Your greatness is something else,
yeah.
right? And so my point there is that education does not transcend greatness.
No.
Everybody has a greatness. And even though I am educated with, my degrees and whatnot, there's a lot of stuff I can't do. I can't grow a plant. I kill them. Like, so to me, hearing that your grandmother had these big, beautiful plants, with all of the things that I've done, I think that is the most fascinating thing in the
Mm.
world because I
I,
can't do it.
yes, I promise you, my mom is gonna listen to this and say, "She just like me." My mom swears she can't. I bet you can. I bet you can. You probably just water it too much, but
I
that's a
would.
whole other story. So listen, I want to get into how Salt and Light came to be. So tell me a little bit about how you founded the organization, how it came to be. You know, how did your journey get there, and what are you doing now? Tell me a little bit about that.
Sure, thank you. So after doing my last major healthcare initiative, we talked about it. It was with Kaiser Permanente, was with Kaiser Permanente for 17 years. Met some great people, had some really great experiences in leading very large scale transformations. And my last large scale transformation was one at the time, and there might have been some since then. It was the largest electronic medical record merger of its kind, right, in that particular domain. And what it was 20 years worth of patient data, 12 electronic medical records merged into two electronic medical records for the state of California. And I was the the executive director for the business on the side, right? And so, as an African American female, I was the only African American female on the leadership team, and of course, you can imagine the level of responsibility something like that carries. The
Yes.
girl who comes from humble beginnings, the girl who doesn't have a roadmap, the girl who just kept showing up to that fire that was in the pit of her belly. And so once I accomplished that with an amazing team of individuals, it was not just me. There was, over, 1,500 people tied to this initiative. But coming out of it, I really, really knew I had something, special and done something special. Not that that was the only implementation I did. There were several before it, but being the lead female executive and then also to seeing that situation through, what I decided was it was time for me to retire from corporate America and really expand my reach to being able to doing those types of initiatives outside of that organization and in a larger scale. And so after the end of that initiative, Salt and Light was born because I want to do two things. I really, really want to go help the people. I want to go help Caressa Bell 30 years ago, 35 years ago, and help create that blueprint for the person who doesn't understand how to get there, because we need more future leaders. And I know that there's no roadmap out there. There wasn't a roadmap for me, and there isn't a roadmap that's being passed out outside of the narrative of go to work, go to school, go to college, you know what I mean, get a job and live happily ever after. Like, I'm here to show you that there's a new way, right? And there's all these other steps that you need to do. And then also too, I really want to help organizations who are looking to do massive transformations and don't have the talent or haven't done it before and don't know how or need some assistance in that process, whether it's helping you create a governance board for billion-dollar transformation initiatives so that you can ensure they're done correctly, or if it's getting in there to do the work. I want to make sure that I'm paying back to organizations and people based on the things that I've learned over the years. So that's how Salt and Light was born. I basically said it's time for me to do this on a grander scale. I love the fact that I was able to do it with the people in Kaiser Permanente for so many years, but I'm being called to do something bigger. And again, I am the person who subscribes to the message from the fire in the pit of my belly. And that's where Salt and Light comes from.
I love that. I love that. So tell me who you told me about the organizations that you want to help, and you talked a little bit about the individuals. How do I know that I am Caressa Bell's um, ideal individual client? I'm listening. How do I know I need to hit the buttons that we're about to talk about to work with Caressa? How do I know?
You know, Great question. I think everyone is a leader. And that's the thing that I want people to know first and foremost. Everyone is a leader, and and whether you're just leading yourself, it starts with leading yourself first. And so I think my ideal client are people who know that they want to do more, are called to do more, and they really don't have a roadmap for what that looks like. Whatever that leadership thing is, it doesn't have to be a billion-dollar transformation. For example, this past weekend, I talked at a community health fair about the importance of leading, like ensuring that you have the right mental health so you can lead your family, right?
Yeah.
Because Black women, we carry so much weight. We carry the weight of, our the responsibility to our siblings and our extended family, plus our internal family, plus the obligations that we've created, to our communities and things of that nature. And before you know it, all of those things are things that you're carrying, and you are
Yes.
leading. People are watching you. And so I used to say my ideal client were people who were in corporate America or who were, striving to be a leader. But I've actually changed that recently, Dr. Ebony. I feel like anybody that has someone watching them do
Mm,
anything can benefit from my message, because my message is all about leading yourself first.
yes.
Leading yourself first, understanding what your gift is so you can lead from authenticity. Then you can lead others to do things because now they are watching you do something, right? And you are taking them through a journey. And once you lead yourself and you lead others, you have the ability to leave legacy, right?
Yes.
Now, everything that comes from that is your legacy. And that's what I subscribe to. So anyone who has someone watching is my ideal client because it starts with you first.
Yes. That's a whole word. A whole word. Somebody, anybody who has somebody watching. Our listeners know my story, and that was part of the reason for the pause that I took when I stepped away from corporate America. Because you're right, people are watching, and that's part of the weight. Um, if people weren't watching, it might be a little less heavy. But like
Yeah.
you said, I'm the only African American woman in the room, so I know all the African American women outside the room are watching, and sometimes they tell you. Sometimes they reach out and they're like, "I just want to, I just want to talk to you because I saw a black woman, right?" Which is not a bad thing, but you carry that day in and day out. You know that you're watching. They're watching. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to disappoint uh, everyone, right? It is it's a heavy weight to carry, but we carry it, and I think learning to carry it well, learning when to put it down and care for yourself and go back and pick it up is important. And so I'm glad to know that you are doing that work and that there is someone out there that is focusing on that. Someone who says, like, I know it's a lot to be the one that someone is watching, right?
Mhm.
But I appreciate that work, and that's one of the reasons this podcast was birthed, was so that people could watch, so that people could see the conversations that they don't get to see, that they don't get to hear when they're watching us on stages or watching us lead massive transformations that are getting national attention, right? There is still Ebony Stone or Caressa Bell that goes back and talks to their girlfriend and like, girl, today in that meeting, let me
Whew.
tell you, right? And so that's part of the reason that this podcast was born, for that exact thing, so that people could understand what it feels like when you're being watched, and that others could know that they aren't the only one, and that we got a community, right?
Can I speak on that just a little bit? Because, baby, you really just cracked my head wide open saying all the things that are inside of me, right? And keeping true to this being just, two accomplished women having a conversation. Carrying the weight is major. Carrying the weight is real.
Yes.
It is not lost on me that when I'm in the room, I'm representing me, my family, my community, and all of the other brown girls out there who are highly capable but just haven't gotten to that seat yet.
Yep.
And that is where manufacturer fearlessness is so important, because what I mean when I say manufacturer fearlessness, I could choose to play it smaller and not carry that weight or bring my best self to that, or, play it smaller. But when I manufacture the fearlessness to carry the weight of me and everybody that's cheering for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's what I mean when I say manufacture fearlessness.
Yes. Yes. I
That's what it
absolutely.
looks like. right? Because again, you understand you ruminate over your mistakes, you ruminate over what you're going to say. You're doing all of this because you know your people are watching you, and that's again, I love everything you said. So thank you for letting me to just
Yes, absolutely. You talked about ruminating over mistakes. Listen, can I tell you how many times I have said, "Oh, did I say that?" And then later on the drive home, I'm like, I wonder what they're thinking about what I said. And then I'm laying in the bed thinking about my day, like, "Oh, I really hate that I said it that way." And then I get up in the morning, I'm in the shower, and I'm like, "Oh, I wish I hadn't said that." And then I get to work, and somebody says, "I'm so glad you said that."
yeah,
What? And I just spent the last day and a half, 2 days feeling
agonize.
like, yes, that was horrible. Why did I say that? You know, we just gotta let it go.
Just gotta let it go.
We just gotta learn to let it go. Uh, One of my favorite things to say is, and I typically say it with respect to raising my children, but I mean it in life in general. I did my best. I gotta let God do the rest,
That's
right?
it.
So if I said it kind of the wrong way, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry. Yep.
right? Charge it to my head, not my heart. My heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
Um, so I love that you pointed that out. So many of us do that. I've had so many conversations with people who are like, "Oh God, I messed this up," or "Oh goodness, I messed." Our counterparts ain't worrying about it. They're moving on.
And a lot of times, what we think is a mistake, and from our standard, actually unlock something for someone else.
Yes, absolutely, it does. Yep. Okay.
So I'm right there with you.
Okay. So you said that you this past weekend you spoke at did you say a community college,
A community health fair.
a
It was
community health fair?
mental health. Yep, mental health and wellness health fair. I was a keynote speaker
Okay,
for the city of Riverdale here in Georgia.
love it. So that was last weekend. What's coming in the future? What things you got coming up? What can we look for as we watch this new phase of life for Caressa Bell? What's coming up?
Exciting news! So one of the things that I am really excited about is I'm starting a Lead Yourself First challenge, and it's really
Mhm.
all about helping people to understand that conversation we had, understanding your gifts. How do you lead yourself first? So many people may look at me and see me and say, "Gosh, I want to do what she did," and I'm not saying this to be braggadocious. I'm telling you conversations that people have come up to me and said, "Hey, I'm great at this, and I really like the way you do something." And so, lead yourself first is really all about starting with that belief of your gift is your gift, and you absolutely can harness your gift and be great at your gift, but you have to lead yourself first through
Mhm.
whatever it is you're going through. Let go of the things that don't serve you. Eliminate the things out of your life that aren't helping you. Assess what you need and decide who you want to be so you can show up to that on a regular basis. So, the Lead Yourself First challenge is coming. And I have something special for your listeners that I'd like to be able to share that will give them an opportunity to join me for that Lead Yourself First challenge. And I want to say this, Dr. Ebony, this is not about people who are executive leaders like me. I don't want anyone to think that you have to be an executive to lead yourself first. I started leading myself first in as a middle school girl who knew she wanted more, and I just kept showing up to that. I didn't have a name for it or a framework for it, but that's where it starts. So that's the first thing I want to share. The second thing that I'm really excited about is I have a book called Manufactured Fearlessness coming out. This is for professionals, people who are in business, and it's own your leadership, own the room. This is a blueprint for showing us how we need to show up in the boardroom, in work, in everyday life, so that we can own our own authentic leadership, so that we can own the room, right? And that book is coming out, and I'm super excited about that as well. So those are the two things that had me really excited today.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So you guys, she kind of glossed over this really quickly, but I'm going to repeat it. Caressa Bell left a free gift for you guys down in the show notes. I don't want to miss that. I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm not gonna tell y'all what it is, but there will be a link, a QR code down in the show notes. Grab it, and get that free gift. So I want to make sure that comes out. Secondly, make sure you follow her on all socials, all platforms, so that you can be a part of the Lead Yourself Challenge. And then make sure you grab the book when it comes out. I cannot wait. Just the whole manufactured fearlessness thing is absolutely amazing. So listen, I feel like we could have conversations forever. Listen, we had a 30-minute conversation before we started recording, right? After we had already had a conversation a couple weeks ago. But I know we got to get out of here. So I want to do this before we leave. I just want to ask this question. And you know what's coming. If someone approaches and said, look, I love all the things you're doing. You're absolutely amazing. We want to make a story of your life. What would that story be called? And who would play you if you know who that actress would be?
I love this question. And if someone were making a story about me, what would it be called and who would play me? So I think the story would be called Grace Would Not Let Me Quit.
Grace Would Not Let Me Quit. Listen, you'd have dropped a couple of like sermonettes in our conversation, or at least titles of sermons. I love that. Grace would not let me quit. That's cool.
Every time I wanted to give my gift back, God was right there saying, no, ma'am, it's yours. So Grace would not let me quit. And the person who would play me is Kerry Washington, because the way she handled things in Scandal, that's how you get it done.
Yes. And she also, if you haven't seen her story about finding out that her father was not her biological father, and how she handled that, check that out. That was powerful. She actually, her father was concerned how she would handle it, and the first thing she said to him was, "Now you know what it feels like to be loved unconditionally. Like, you still my daddy." Yeah. So yes, great actress for that. So listen, if you the execs out there, movie execs, if you're looking for a good story, Grace Wouldn't Let Me Quit and Miss Kerry Washington, we would, hey, come on and play Caressa, right? That would be great. So Caressa, thank you so much for being here today. I truly, truly appreciate it. I have absolutely enjoyed this conversation. And to all of you out there, if you don't take anything away from this conversation, just remember to manufacture your own fearlessness. And until next time, you guys know what to do. Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Bye-bye. Thank you for spending time with me today. If this episode spoke to you, share it with another Black woman who needs this reminder. And don't forget to subscribe. You'll find links to my book, apparel, and speaking information in the show notes. Until next time, lead with intention and give yourself permission to pause. And you know what else? Keep spreading that Black girl magic on everything you do.